Welcome to the Retro Video Store Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store Podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
And that's my co-host, Neil.
I'm Neil. And what lucky son of a bitch isn't here to see this movie or talk about it?
Would be David. He is working overtime, picking up, trying to, get some cash and out there working and doing stuff. So he chose money over a losing podcast. No.
And not one of our four listeners has bought us a cup of coffee.
No.
I'm just going to say.
Our wives have. They took pity
Our wives have. That's right. Pour one out for the ladies right now.
So today is the last movie of High School Movie Month, and we're ending on a doozy here. We're ending on just one of the guys from 1985.
Spoiler alert. It's not really a guy.
What?
That'd tell you.
We'll talk about this a lot, but I just remember watching this movie over and over and over again as a kid. It was always on HBO. It was just
on purpose. You watched this on purpose?
Yeah,
or because you were enjoying it.
Well, I thought it was funny back then when I was, when I was 12, and now I watched it with the same comic intensity as somebody watching like the Nuremberg trials or something. It's just like, oh my God, no. Oh no. It did not elicit the same amount of yucks as it did when I was young.
I got to watch this movie with a diehard fan of the film, my lovely and talented bride, Samantha. Mm-hmm. Would sit there and quote the movie before the line would come on. My wife would, boom, she would have the line out and would just sit there giggling to herself. Isn't this movie great? No. No, it's not.
Before we dive into that, let's do what we always do. And let me cough for a second. Let's do what we always do and ask, Neil, what did you watch this week?
I didn't watch any movies this week.
Really?
Yeah, I watched a ton of TV. I watched a lot of TV. I came across a TV show called Evil that I watched. Then we got, I don't know, it's on, is it AMC? I think we got AMC. So I was watching, I get they did Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire.
Okay, yeah, AMC Plus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually good.
Oh, really?
It's really good. Yeah, the Lestat beats the shit out of Tom Cruise and the one they had in the movie that held the great music, the Queen of the Damned.
Yeah.
Watch that, and then Bridgerton started, and my wife loves Bridgerton, so there was a lot of that on as well. And then this movie, I guess, this film.
That was cinematic masterpiece of the 80s?
Yeah. Well, Dave's not here. Fuck that guy. What'd you watch?
I actually watched quite a bit of movies this week. I watched all of Jaws 2 for some reason. It was just on like Encore, and I just decided to it's Jaws 2. I haven't seen this in a while. No, I'll check it out. It is entertaining, but definitely not as good as the original Jaws. And it pissed me off because everybody on the city council just doesn't believe Roy Scheider's character. Was it Hooper or Hopper? They just don't believe his character, even though he saved the town from financial ruin and killed the shark last one. This time, he's just full of bullshit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And, well, don't you remember him saving you guys' asses, just a year or two ago? It's dumb. But the shark kills are actually pretty good. And it's got that late 70s look that I love in movies, that kind of, I don't know, lots of feathered hair and corduroy and classic pinball machines and arcade games and stuff. That kind of stuff. I love that kind of look in a movie. It's very nostalgic. So I would recommend Jaws 2. It's not bad. It's really not bad. And then one day I watched pretty much all of it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was the first of the new or the more recent trilogy of ape movies, the one with James Franco and John Lithgow, and is originally trying to cure Alzheimer's and gives it to the monkey and the ape, and then that was actually pretty good. It's not bad. I think
I haven't watched any of them.
The really the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and then the second one, I think it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, are both really good. The third one is awful. It's like this monkey Jesus, monkey Moses allegory where he's trying to lead his people to the promised land, and it's just very, very heavy-handed. It disappears up its own ass, or as we always say, it insists upon itself. Thank you, Seth MacFarlane, for coming up with that saying, because it fits so many things. It does insist upon itself. And then I watched half of Lethal Weapon was on the other day. I watched half of that, and then Terminator. Watched the last quarter of that the other day too. Really enjoyed that one, the original. So just there's not really much sports on right now that I want to watch, so it's a lot of movies. So I'm getting back into that movie mode, and I kind of want to get back to more horror movies, some 80s slashers. But yeah, but instead of watching a good 80s slasher, we watched Just One of the Guys.
Just One of the Guys.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this out of my system right now. I think that this person in the movie, right? Not going to name names, is actually the actor who played Mike Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You are not going to convince me otherwise.
So Joyce Heiser is secretly Robert Romanus. Is that his name? I think that's his name.
They sound the same. They talk the same. They move the same.
Just waiting for him to tell, you got to put on side 2 of Led Zeppelin 4 if you really want to make out with somebody.
Eric, I got to tell you, I've got a 2-step plan for watching this movie. Step 1, start the movie. Step 2, watch the movie. All right.
The way you move, you got to put it out there, the vibe. So before we talk about the movie, really dive into it, I've been thinking a lot and watching a lot of retrospectives on 80s comedies and, just lists and things. And while the 80s does get a lot of credit for having a lot of good movies, there's a lot of crap. There is a lot of crap out there in the 80s. And I think some of these movies that this is a movie that I would have probably never had watched or rented except for if I didn't have HBO. And I know I rub this point in a lot in the podcast.
Every freaking podcast, my man.
This is an HBO staple. There's a lot of movies that weren't very popular, originally in the theater, but man, on HBO we watched the crap out of them. This movie, and I think a movie called 7 Minutes in Heaven, which had a young Jennifer Connelly, where she's her dad goes out of town and she lives by herself, and I don't know, it's just a weird, quirky kind of comedy. A movie called Morgan Stewart is Coming Home with John Cryer, and
yeah, I remember that. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I remember that movie. Yeah, and
The Toy. I remember watching The Toy over and over and over as a kid, and that The Toy came out probably 82, 80, 83-ish, and it just one of those movies where they didn't really think about the politics of the movie, or I guess they did. We're going to buy Richard Pryor to entertain my son. And Bachelor Party I used to watch over and over again. I think we should do that someday, because I still laugh my ass off at Bachelor Party.
I can't. I know Jackie Gleason has a long and storied career, but I cannot see Jackie Gleason without picturing him in that sheriff's outfit going, "Some bitch."
Yep.
When
Sheriff
we get
Roscoe.
home, I'm going to slap your mama.
Man, Smokey and the Bandit was huge back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big franchise. That and the Clint Eastwood movies with Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can. Those were, Right Turn Clyde, when he had the orangutan.
Yeah. And then they had, of course, and then that, of course, prompted on network television, BJ and the Bear. So we had to have another
Eugene.
trucking movie with a monkey.
We got a great big convoy. Yeah, there's something fascinating about truckers back in the day.
Yeah, I'm related to a few, and nothing that fascinating about them, other than proclivity for diabetes and meth abuse.
I just remember in the Clint Eastwood movies, Any Which Way You Can and Every Which Way But Loose, that he was like a bare knuckle fighter, and there was like motorcycle gangs and slapstick comedy and all this kind of crap.
I just remember the song,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, Right Turn Clyde.
Right Turn Clyde. I remember, and Cannonball Run was another one of those movies that.
Oh, Cannonball Run was fun though.
Yeah, I think wasn't Jackie Chan in one of the Cannonball Run movies?
It wasn't one of them. Yeah.
That was another Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, let's get a bunch of people and screw around type movies. Kind of like he was Adam Sandler before Adam Sandler, where he would just invite all his friends to be in a movie and they would just screw around.
And then you waited to the end of the movie because that's where all the outtakes were going to be. So
yes, and that was always the outtakes were better than the movie. Yeah, but
okay, fuck, we got to talk about the movie now.
Let's talk about just one of the guys. Oh, thanks for putting a picture of Terry's cans, but you're not bad. They're better than the sad boobs we've seen in horror movies lately, in Prom Night and in Evil Speak.
Yeah,
which
Damone flashed.
Yeah. So, do you want to hit us with the Internet Movie Database tagline?
Terry feels discriminated against when the summer job at the Sun Tribune go to two guys. She decides to do something about it. She dresses like a guy and gets a haircut. Will students at the other guys notice? Girls notice him.
Yeah. So some of the things I thought about, some complications. So does she get like 2 weeks of unexcused absences at her regular school? Why don't people notice that she's gone at her regular school?
I thought of that as well.
Where's Terry at? Is Terry okay? What's going on with Terry? And then she goes to this other school just for 2 weeks, and then she's gone. And just, it's lots of issues going on with the plausibility of this movie. But yeah, directed by Lisa Gottlieb, who I think I looked at her filmography, wasn't huge. Was it huge? Just one of the guys, and then she did some TV. She did Freddy's Nightmares, one episode, 1988. The TV show Dream On, which was another HBO staple. That was you can guarantee boobs every episode of Dream On HBO. Then she did a episode of Boy Meets World in 1998, and after that, she teaches directing at the University of Miami. So I wonder if people are like, what did you direct? Oh, I directed just one of the guys.
Yeah, they are knocking down the door for that one.
Yeah. Oh my God, I could go to USC Film School and learn about but I'm going to go to University of Miami and learn about movies from the director of Just One of the Guys. Screenplay by Dennis Feldman and Jeff Franklin. Dennis Feldman is responsible for a lot of Species movies. He was the writer for the Golden Child, a movie called Real Men. I think they had like John Ritter and James Belushi.
Yes, I remember that one.
Dead Again, which is was a pretty good thriller with Kenneth Branagh. Then he did Species 2, a movie called Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis, Species 3, and Species: The Awakening. So I think he was beating that Species horse until it couldn't go no more. So yeah, interesting. And the other guy, Jeff Franklin, was a writer on Full House. And that really explains
the comedy. As soon as you said that,
yes,
that really
exactly.
explained it. Wow. The pieces are coming together.
The pieces came together. Yes. He wrote for Bad News Bears TV show, Laverne and Shirley, Bosom Buddies. So he's familiar with the gender swap comedies. It's a Gary Shandling show, which is actually a good, funny show.
This is the theme to Gary Show. The theme to Gary Show. This is the part in the show where we play Gary's theme song. That was the best part of the whole show.
Yeah. And then Fuller House, he's a executive producer, so he's still on that train. But yeah, the humor is super corny in this movie. And that's just, where did that little thumbs down come from?
I don't know. but it's like it read my mind. Holy shit!
On our video,
great.
On our video feed, there was a animated thumbs down that went across Neil's face, and I'm like, how did that happen?
I didn't even touch it. I was just sitting here thinking negative thoughts. Wow, this is tripping me. This is tripping me out a little bit. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie.
Zencastr has become sentient. I wonder if I could do that if it does that. No. Interesting. Yeah, I tried to do thumbs down to see if it would do that, but. Oh, there it did. For you, it did again. Yeah, thought bubble with the thumbs down.
But it was creepy that it did it without me doing anything.
I know.
Just sitting here staring.
It was a little scary there. Yeah.
Zencaster's like, look, this movie. All right. So I get Jeff Franklin. You did the whole bosom buddies. My mom enjoyed bosom buddies, which is a little trippy because as my mom has gotten older and moved to the Midwest to be closer to VA hospitals for my father, has become to talk about the agenda.
Oh,
and referring to gay people by certain terms that rhyme with mere instead of, like homosexuals or gay people or the LGBTQ community.
Yep.
So thank you for that. That brought us some laughs in my household on regular network TV because, unlike Eric, we didn't have fucking HBO. But for this movie, Mr. Feld, Mr. Franklin, kiss my ass.
They don't really talk about the budget of the movie.
Why would you?
But it made $11 million at the box office, which is not a huge sum. But I think like most of the movies we talk about probably didn't have a huge box office, but then became staples on video and on HBO or cable. And also I think broadcast TV, which is kind of odd for this one because there is, this would probably be R now. I was surprised that it was PG-13 watching this movie.
I didn't even know PG-13 was a thing in 85.
I think 85 was the first year of PG-13, I think.
Really?
Because Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie, if I remember correctly. If I remember my trivia. Which we haven't done Red Dawn yet, which is surprising. Let's do that.
Because we live here.
Avenge me! That's my favorite part when Harry Dean Stanton's like, avenge me!
I enjoyed watching that movie. And then I got my dad to watch it, who is a veteran and a combat veteran and has seen a lot of combat since we're talking about VA hospitals and things like that. And my dad is fresh on my mind because of some health issues he's having right now. But I remember watching this and then asking my dad, like, so Dad, what'd you think about that? And he goes, that was the dumbest concept for a movie I've ever seen. Those kids would not have lasted against trained soldiers for as long as they did, especially with the resources of an entire military to try to track them down. That would not have happened that way. I was like, yeah, but what about the terrain? What about this? And he just remember him telling me, like, wasn't a jungle, son. They'd have been dead. Like, all right, cool. All right, thanks for that bit of positivity.
Yeah. Dads.
Ruining
baby boomer dads.
Ruining the movie magic. Although, let's talk about baby boomer parents. Again, this movie, free range. And that was what came up in the conversation with my wife when we watched this, was that we really had a lot of time to ourselves.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like with nobody knowing. And that was that video I sent you guys. Remember that ad campaign? And for those who are listening who might actually be Gen Xers like us, there was an ad campaign with famous people to like talk to parents like, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? And it would have all these famous people.
Like Grace Jones and Cyndi Lauper and like all these, other people.
Andy Warhol was on
Andy
it.
Warhol, yeah, that's weird.
But like at 10 o'clock now, if my kid, let's say, he's going to be driving soon. If it's 10 o'clock and I don't know where he is, there's going to be hell to pay.
Oh, yeah.
At 10 o'clock, all I had to do was take the quarter that I got before I left the house, pop it in a payphone, usually the 7-Eleven near your house, and say, I'm going to be at Eric's. And then would do other things.
Because
they trusted you.
I'm a pretty trustworthy guy, though. I'm a very nerdy, straight arrow type person. So, yeah. Except for I was, Catholic, which your dad didn't like.
Well, I mean, you're going to go to hell. That's all there is to it. You can't trust them. The Antichrist, idol worshippers. The things I went through just to hang out with you, to bless you with my presence. I don't think you fully appreciated what I went through.
So back to the movie. Joyce Heiser plays Terry, a.k.a. Terry Griffith. Terry
with an I, Terry with a Y.
Clayton Rohner was Rick. Billy Jacoby was Buddy.
Which one was Rick? I got to tell you, I did not pay any fucking attention to their names whatsoever.
Yeah, it's Rick was the guy that she became friends with, then became romantically interested in. The schlubby guy who then, she made him a little more. She zhuzhed him up a little. Yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch! We said the same thing.
I
love it. My mind to your 80s to my 80s.
Then Billy Jacoby was her brother, Buddy, who was actually probably the best part of the movie. The obnoxious, perverted brother. And then you had Billy Zabka is Greg Tolan, the bully who wore the weightlifting gloves all the time.
How fantastic. Let's just stop for a moment. We're going to talk about all this because I want to talk about just some of the concepts in the movie and some of the things they did that we would have thought would have been okay, which are total freaking dirtbag moves. But dude, William Zabka, what a storied career of playing a bully.
Yes.
Has this guy done? I imagine he's got to be just the sweetest guy in real life. You can't actually have been that big of a douche and survived and still be having a little bit of a renaissance, because he was doing the Karate Kid series on
the Cobra Kai show,
Netflix, I think it was. Yeah. But then he even like Hot Tub Time Machine, like little bit roles, and he always plays an asshole, and he does it so good.
Yeah,
you just see him, and you like. I know if I ever meet the guy, like the first like knee jerk thing in my head is going to be, oh, this fucking prick. But he's done a really good job. Like, did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Okay, the kid who played King Joffrey.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ultimately, just dislikable, unlikable. But the kid, I've seen interviews with him. And he was like, yeah, I had to get out of acting altogether because people everybody hated me. I'm like, you did that good of a job being a total douche that people can't disassociate you with the character. And I imagine the 80s probably were a little rough for him.
for Billy Zabka, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he was, of course, in the Karate Kid, and then he was in this movie, and then he was in Back to School. He was the antagonist in Back to School, which we probably need to do someday.
I love that movie.
I love that movie too. It's a good one. Lee McCloskey is Kevin, who is Terry's boyfriend, who's supposedly college age, but he looks like he's pushing 40. And then, of course, my favorite, Sherilyn Fenn, is Sandy, the girl who has a crush on Terry, thinks he's a guy, and I've always enjoyed Miss Sherilyn Fenn in her roles in Twin Peaks and Two Moon Junction and Boxing Helena. Yeah.
Would you like some time alone with the podcast?
I remember her cover of her on Playboy. It was the sound of one hand clapping. Is what it was. So there is not much. Oh, I'll go back and go. Stuart Charno as a reptile. And Stuart Charno, if you are a fan of the Friday the 13th series, he played Ted, one of the guys who survived in Friday the 13th Part 2, because he had the smarts to go drinking in town while Jason went on a rampage. So he probably was like drunk in an alley and back in town, but while everybody else got slaughtered. But he was with a name like Ted, you thought he would be
dead,
but he actually survived in Friday the 13th Part 2.
We all know what rhymes with Ted.
The critical consensus is very slim on this movie.
I am shocked. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You ready? This is going to be a bit. To all four listeners, I'm going to apologize because the majority of the podcast will not be taken up by critical consensus. We got to get this wrapped up. Rotten Tomatoes. The film holds an approval rating of 57% based on 14 reviews with an average rating of 4.8 of 10. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 57 based on 6 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. There we go.
So I included Rotten Tomatoes reviews because there's a couple of, it expands on a little bit. And, there's a few more in there to kind of talk about it. But I was surprised because usually you get a decent critical consensus, but this one did not have many at all. And I'm stalling, waiting for the page. Oh, here we go. From Miss Magazine, this film offers potential to address head-on the considerable differences between transgender identities and Terry's gender disguise. Really? Because it didn't do anything with that. Back in the 80s, it was all for laughs.
Yes, and it was, and you weren't out to affirm anyone's identity. You were there to mock them, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just One of the Guys is a charming and wild 1980s teen comedy anchored by Joyce Heiser's charismatic and unexpectedly committed performance. This is from Carolyn Madden from Screen Queens. I've never heard of them. How about TV Guide?
Most of the male-female situations Terry finds herself in are played for laughs, and the film eventually sinks into an all-too-typical conclusion, but the observations regarding the nature of sexuality are interesting and well-handled.
Really?
The Guide said it, dude.
The staff of Variety, not one reviewer stepped up to put their name on it, said, Joyce Heiser, affecting a lower register, a short haircut, and a subtle swagger, is not totally convincing as a boy because she's too pretty and too chic. She wore a lot of shirts. She must have been, when she's playing Terry the guy, she must have been hot all the time because she always had an undershirt, a regular shirt, a shirt, like a vest, and a jacket at all times. Burn up that way. And a tie.
And the tie, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was the collars that get me. I think of all the things from the 80s that I did, I never did the collar sticking up in the air.
Yeah, I never popped a collar either.
Yeah, never did that. We had people at our school that did it, and I always thought they looked, and a word that you're not supposed to use anymore. That's how I thought they looked. A word that we would have used in the 80s.
And that word has come up quite a bit in the past month in the movies that we've watched.
Because we're watching 80s movies.
Exactly. Yes. Homophobia was very omnipresent in the 80s.
Yes.
And I will admit that I was not as enlightened as I am now back then because I was just as ignorant as everybody else.
What's the great thing about moving? I mean, we both got out of the area and we had our eyes open to a much larger world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got
people, and
I went all the way to the water, and then I couldn't go any farther.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the mountains, Rocky Mountain. Anyway, but yeah, it's really, really, really out there with the slurs. But yeah, and this is another thing I've been thinking of about all these kind of retrospective or newer reviews, modern reviews on old movies, where they spend most of the time pointing out the social flaws and stuff like that, and yeah, obviously there are, but I think you kind of have to put yourself in a mindset of like when it was made and enjoy it. Otherwise that's all you're going to think about.
That would be like watching something like Django Unchained and having, one of the reviewers like, although this movie depicts slavery and racism, we all know this to be a fatal flaw. Yes, none of us were watching this. Yes, thank you. Thinking
yeah.
that.
I mean, yes, thank you for. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it was Tai Waititi. What was Jojo Rabbit? Have you seen it? Great movie. Not. Oh, it's a great movie. But they were asking him about it, and he said, it's weird in this day and time that I have to make a movie to remind people that Nazis are bad.
Yeah.
And there was another Miller's Girl. I don't know if you've seen Miller's Girl.
Mm-mm.
All right. So there's the dude who plays Bilbo in the new movies. And then he's the spy in the Avengers movies.
Martin Freeman.
He's like my age. He's like 51, 52. And in it, he's having an affair with like a 18 to 20-year-old girl. And people were poo-pooing him and giving him a hard time. And he was writing, he's like, people do understand that this is just fiction, right? That I'm not actually doing this. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Where when people look back at stuff like this, it's you have to take it in context that that's where we were. Is it good? No. Did it make me uncomfortable? Like hearing some of the things of just like, oh my God, Jesus shit, were we horrible? But you can't, we understand it's bad. We understand.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No one's watching it going like, man, I really wish we could go back to treating each other like that again.
I was watching kind of going back, watching these 80s film retrospectives, and they were talking about the movie Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell and how it was like the most, you couldn't get away with it now, but I think they had, if you watch it, it's not a great movie, but I think the intention of the movie was to be more socially conscious, but they went about it in a completely wrong-headed way. And it's kind of funny if you watch it, but just, I remember, it just plays into all the stereotypes and stuff like that, but that was funny. And it was okay to laugh at it then. It's just like watching Trading Places or something with Eddie Murphy or Eddie Murphy Raw. His stand-up comedy is just does not hold up today. But it's still funny. You just got to put it in the context of the time you watched it.
Of the time you've watched it. It's Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr. A lot of people. I was watching some internet newsy type like movie things, and there were some people in there that were not that happy about it. And they went to talk to some of the members of the cast and went like, Robert Downey Jr. got a pass on this because he wasn't doing it to be racist. He was pairing someone who'd be ignorant enough to do that and all the stupid things he would say and the stupid things he did. It's like, it's not a diss towards black people. It was a diss towards people who are stupid and who do these types of things.
Yeah.
Like these types of actors.
Yeah, exactly. These character people are you try to be so into acting that they can change their, be such deep method actors. Yeah, it's still funny as hell.
I don't get upset when White Chicks is on.
That shit's funny. Oh shit! Another movie I watched this week was "Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood." I love that stupid movie. If it is on, I will watch it. And it is just a stupid, stupid parody movie, but I love it. I will watch it.
What about I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker?
I love that one too. That's a good. It's another Wayans, Keenan Ivory Wayans in that one.
Keenan Ivory in that one. That one's good.
Yeah, but Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. I still love it. It's super, super, super funny. And yeah, but all right, let's talk about the plot of this movie. I do remember Terry at the beginning of the movie in her tank top and panties because they got to show how womanly she is. We got
to have some shots of her in a bikini so that everyone can take a look and go like, okay, I get it. Yeah. She's got big boobs. She's got curves. She's got a flat tummy. Look at this. Every guy's going to want to be with her. Even though she doesn't move the space between her nose and her lip when she speaks. And she sounds like Mike Damone from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
She does sound like Mike Damone from Fast Times, yeah. Ugh. And she kind of, you sent me a picture of a side-by-side picture of them both. And yes, they're very similar looking.
I was incensed when I sent you that. I took time. I paused the movie just to put that together to show it to you. I was like, what is he doing to me right now? I don't think I had ever seen this whole movie.
Oh, really?
No, I don't think I had. I mean, obviously the part that I saw when I was in 1985 got it on video, and then you just kind of fast forward to the bit like, oh, yep, boobs.
Yep, she's got boobs. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to explain to my wife that at no point in time in high school was I ever provided a jock strap by the school. Did I ever walk around in said jock strap
with your ass hanging out,
or had to prove that I had it on? The worst thing The worst thing that happened is if you're playing contact sports, coach would come by with like a rolled up, paper with like his roster on it and flick you in the nuts to go cup check. Bam. Oh, that wouldn't hurt if you'd put your cup on.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Oh, that hurt. That's your fault.
Yeah. The only thing I remember, shirts versus skins was just the worst thing. If you were like slightly chubby, if you were like a little heavy, that was the worst.
It was fun times.
Yeah, it was fun times. Yeah, that was when you made fun of other people. I remember this one guy had I won't say his name, but he just had the weirdest nipples. And everybody just gave him shit for having the like weird nipples. Because it was shirts versus skin. They're like, oh my God. That is something that was humiliating in high school. That was a humiliating part. Is just the 2 weeks that you would spend swimming and then shirts versus skins. But we never ever had jock straps and or showered after gym. I think we were all just stunk of sweat from the time you had gym for the rest of the day. But I think anybody would have rather died than to shower naked in front of your classmates.
We had that one special kid. He didn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And everyone would just sort of looking like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, that was odd. But
swimming was good though. You just walked in with your trunks and you just rinse yourself off.
Yeah, exactly. Walk in with your trunks, then wrap the towel around your waist, pull the trunks down, then put your underwear on. That's just like a decent human being.
Yeah.
Instead of the old guys at the gym now are so comfortable with their bodies that they just walk around
1 foot up on the counter, and the other one they got nuts. They get their nuts swinging with the provided, hair dryer.
Hair dryer, yes.
I told so Joe's wanted to start lifting. I said, okay, cool. We'll go start lifting weights. I enjoy lifting the weights. And I said, whatever you do when you walk past her, you don't look this way. Don't ever look this way, especially when it's crowded. Because there's old people at this time. The time we're going, there's old people here. And I'm like, don't look over there. And he looks over there. He goes, oh my God, Dad, did you look? I'm not looking. That's
always reminds me of Billy Madison. Did you see that guy's balls? They were weird looking. So yeah, that seems to be a trope in high school movies, 80s high school movies, of having to shower after gym. And maybe in other places around the United States, that was a common practice, but not in New Mexico in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. That was just not a thing. You just probably just stunk.
Yeah. And there was no room in those locker rooms, man. You were in there nut to butt. You're not going to turn around without making intimate contact with somebody.
Yeah.
And then much less walking around in a jockstrap. So bizarre.
We did have a
so
friend
bizarre
that during the swim portion of gym, that he was the only guy who thought, he must have thought he was like in Ibiza or something like that. He was wearing like a Speedo.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
And everybody's like, whoa.
He'd always wear the
sophisticated for the rest of us.
It was so bizarre. Like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, just be ashamed of your body like the rest of us. Stop being so sophisticated.
I'm not embarrassed. Are you embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah. So
that guy was a dick.
Mr. Continental. So pervy brother buddy was the highlight of the movie to me, and I kind of like the nerds in the movie when they're like separating them in gym class, and they're like making these weird noises being separated, and that kind of stuff sort of made me laugh.
I forget what the point that my wife was trying to make, because she was like, "Oh, look, you guys had nerds." I was talking about something because my wife's younger than me, and she goes, "Oh, look at those nerds! Like the nerds you have in that." I'm like, that didn't exist like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not where I went to school. That didn't happen. And it was always a thing. You always had like 16 candles. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There were the 2-3 weird nerds who are like talking to each other on walkie-talkies, wearing headsets and shit. It was like people wanted to like have these like hugely like grotesque cliques. I mean, there were cliques when we went to school, but I mean, you still dealt and talked with each other.
Yeah, because you had to.
Yeah. maybe this is it. Maybe because we went to a high school in the middle of butt hell nowhere, New Mexico, we weren't going to some huge school on the East Coast. All right. And I don't know where this was supposed to take place, by the way.
Yeah, it was filmed in Arizona, like in Phoenix, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, there wasn't that huge enough to have the separations of that, because even if you didn't like a person, you probably went to church with them or something where you had to associate with them a little bit somehow. So there wasn't really that. We did have a lot of metal enthusiasts. That was kind of a clique. You had to have your jean jacket, long hair.
Got to get your battle jacket.
Mm-hmm. Metal hit our area pretty hard. Then you had cowboys. We had a lot of Future Farmers of America, 4-H people,
the volunteer firefighters.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last episode. Those were like the cliques. Then you had jocks. You had people who played basketball or football, and then the cheerleaders and things like that. But then you had a lot of really bookish religious kids. A lot of them.
Oh, a lot of them.
Yeah, big time.
I got a hold of a few of them and I converted them.
Yeah. So pink bikini, we got to show that she stacked. Her college boyfriend, Kevin, looks at least 30, at least. And she drives the typical convertible white Mustang that was very popular. So if you were a cool girl in the movies in the 80s, you either had the Volkswagen Cabriolet Fox or Volkswagen Rabbit, or the convertible Mustang. That was those were the cool cars that people in movies had that we didn't have at all. My first car was a Datsun B210.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what after that?
I had a black Chevy Camaro that I wrecked very quickly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I had a Honda Civic.
And then
a Suzuki Samurai.
Yes. God, that thing was scary.
Yeah, you could barely make 50 miles an hour, and it felt like it was made out of aluminum. But I did have the twin subwoofers in the back of it. We like the cars that go boom.
Boom.
Yeah.
Tigra and Bunny, and we like the boom. All right. Let's get to the entertaining parts of this. The gym teacher looked this kid dead in the face, called him a pussy.
Yes. You a pussy? And that was pretty standard for gym teachers, though. I remember one of our gym teachers hit me in the face with a volleyball because I wasn't paying attention. Like, what an asshole.
Which one? You can edit out the name.
Won't. Has passed.
I don't give a shit. I could care less for most of those people.
Yeah, he has passed. And then I made sure and told my parents. My parents called his principal, and the principal got it, and we got him in trouble because he was a dickhead. But yeah, that was not a good time. And yeah, your gym teachers were just cruel. I remember they would make you wrestle. Like there was like a wrestling thing, but it was basically just a gladiatorial event for a week, and they would just pit kids against each other, see who would win. That was an intense wrestling wrestling session.
So there was another one of the PE teachers, and whose name starts with a B, right? And he was trying to show us how to do a cross face. So he had a kid, he demonstrated it, and then the kid went to do it, and he hit him really hard, and he picked the kid up and then slammed him down. And then he's like, "You go ahead and cry to your mom and dad if you want to. I'll tell them how you hit me in the face." And one of the kids went like, "You're like twice his size." And then he went over and he slammed them down too. And I was like, wow, I'm going to shut the hell up, because he stuck me with wrestling like the 300-pound kid. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and just get squashed by this guy. I'm all good. I don't want to get my ass kicked by like a full-grown, angry high school football coach while I'm just in middle school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Only attracting. What I'm getting here is that this does echo real life, that only the finest of individuals are seeking the call to become physical education teachers. And if one of our 4 listeners is a physical education teacher, do better. do better than the people that have come before you.
The only time that PE was great was when you were in elementary school and they brought out the parachute.
And you'd riffle it like this, and then you'd have to jump in and pull it down. And,
yes, it was amazing.
So good.
Or the stupid little, like their little dollies you would sit on, and then you would like roll around on your feet, and then you would accidentally run over your fingers. I just hurt myself thinking about that. Had a wince of memory of pain. So, all right. So Billy Zabka is your bully. He's effective as the bully. The guy who played, Joyce, did I mention that Joyce Heiser was 27 years old when she played this role? 27, playing a high school senior. And the big giveaway that she is older is her teeth. She's got the smoker's yellowy older teeth. I was like, huh. And this is before like everybody had veneers and all this kind of stuff like that. So you could definitely tell that she was a little older than everybody else in this movie. And the guy who played Rick was also 27. And yeah, Billy Zabka though, 19. So he was at least, Sherilyn Fenn was like 20 as well. So sort of close. One thing did you see the generic beer cans?
Yep.
It just said beer.
Love those. Safeway used to have their own brand of beer. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Was it Scotch brand?
Scotch brand.
Man, I just pulled that out of nowhere.
Woo! It was so good. Can I tell everybody how wonderful it was to be alive in the 80s and early 90s like we were? Here's what it is. There was this particular beverage called Keystone.
I think you can still get Keystone.
Life's too short to drink cheap beer now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Keystone. $12 for a case, right? But if you mailed in the UPC on that, okay, you could get $7 back. $5 for 12 beers.
Nice.
In high school. Not that I know. I know people that did this and told me about it.
We're going to go on the side here. Jamie and I went to a tap room yesterday and had drinks with friends. And I realized that tap rooms, and maybe this is maybe a stand-up comedy, comic has already talked about this. I don't know. But I was thinking to myself, tap rooms are for people who are too old to go to bars. Because it's all people in their late 40s, early 50s enjoying beer without all that loud music and other problematic stuff that you get when you're in a bar.
All the people that can afford that quality of beer.
Yeah.
I've got a custom bottle of bourbon. I did a fundraiser for the chaplain here, and I've got a custom bottle of bourbon coming my way in July.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
So Rick is a loser. He loves James Brown for some reason. We don't know why. He's the only person that will befriend Terry at the school. And of course, they slowly become romantically involved, or Terry's pressuring him to ask girls out and be better for himself and, stand up for himself. And Sandy, Sherilyn Fenn, really comes on strong to Terry. And I was thinking to myself, who would turn down Sherilyn Fenn? Even if you're Terry, Sherilyn Fenn.
You've gotten really red for some reason. You seem angry. You seem very upset by this.
I know. Damn it. Well, the weird thing is that Sandy double dates with Rick and Terry with a sixth grader, her cousin or something like that. And I thought that was bizarre.
It's so weird. The whole idea of like age appropriateness and sexuality in this were really fucking off. They were never even on. They're so whacked out. At the prom, her friend is dancing with her. Obviously, she's a senior, 17, 18. And there's like a 35-year-old looking musician who's playing at a high school dance. He's like, oh my God, that guy's looking at me. He's a fucking grown adult playing at your dance. He shouldn't be hitting on you.
Yeah. And she goes off with him. And then Buddy, who's 15, winds up sleeping with Sandy, who is probably 17 or 18. So yeah, this just in things were different back in the 80s.
Apparently. It's like these writers had some really like horrible times in school and were just trying to work some stuff out.
I do remember though that having an older sister, who was only 18 months older than me, there were old dudes that tried to pick up on her all the time. Not like, guys in their 20s or something. They were talking guys like in their 30s and stuff like that. That would be like try to pick up on her. She'd be at the mall or something like that, and like, hey, you want to go hang out with us? And like, what, you with your kids or what? Just yeah. Back then, it was just. I think maybe people are way more aware of it now, rightfully, but also, yeah, it's just bizarre in these movies.
I mean, I have no doubt that it still happens, just because a lot of gross dudes out there.
Mm-hmm. And in a lot of these movies, it always has to end at the prom. The prom is, the big setting. Oh, let's go back a little bit. I did think that the guy how to be a guy lessons that Buddy gave to Terry were kind of funny, but all balls itch and things like that. That was kind of funny. Buddy was the highlight of the movie in his perverseness. I do remember being 15 and, wasn't that terribly off in my thoughts, not actions, in my thoughts. But yeah, he was the highlight. So
your 20s, 30s, 40s, and now into your 50s.
Into my 50s, yes. So, yeah, and of course they do the old double date trope where like she's preparing for her regular boyfriend, but then Sandy shows up, so she's got to do the Brady Bunch Three's Company thing where you're trying to juggle 2 dates at the same time.
Would have been better with some Benny Hill music.
Yeah. But everything comes to a head at the big dance. I've never been to a high school dance with a live band. And that seems like
that kind of food.
Yeah, that kind of food. Live band.
I brought that up. That's a sore spot also from my 80s upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Never got to go to a party with a live band.
Yeah.
Well, a prom or a school event.
Mm-hmm. So everything comes to a head. The Kevin wants to go find Terry, so he shows up, and then Greg punches Rick, and then Terry fights Greg, and all the sorts of shenanigans go on, and then it looks like Terry is showing her love for Rick. Everybody's, oh my god, it's two dudes, and then she shows him her tits. Her breasts. Jamie hates the word tits. Breasts.
Yes. But that was what he said. It's okay. He's got tits.
Tits. Yeah.
William Zabka did get a great line in this. Like, where did this family learn to fight? Or something like that. He says something like this.
Yeah, because Terry jumps on his back and then Buddy does. And yeah.
That was so disappointing. It's like, now you've kids have seen how to like a choke. They don't know how to do it properly. But as soon as Terry jumped on there, I'm like, you've got his back. It's over.
Exactly. Take him.
This is done. He should go down in like 5-6 seconds. You should have this taken care of. But nope. Let down again.
So Rick finds out that Terry is a girl, and then he's upset, obviously, because she lied to him. And then she decides to write her story and submit it to the paper. And then she gets published, and then the teacher apologizes to her. But all this could have been avoided if Terry realized that the subjects she was writing about were boring. Because she's been told that twice by two different teachers. It's not that you're a bad writer. It's just they're boring.
Everything you're writing about is dull.
So she jumped to conclusions thinking they were being sexist to her. She was just a boring writer. So she could have just, improved her topics. We could have avoided this whole damn debacle in the first place. And did you notice at the end where Rick shows up and they go off together? What was with the random motorcycle lady that picks up Buddy? Who looked like she was in her 40s, who picked up Buddy on the back of the bike and drove off. That was
word got around that Buddy's got something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As Buddy was getting ready to get an STD. Yeah.
And I wrote, the end. Thank God. This was not a good movie. I remember it being semi-enjoyable back in the day, but I had not seen this probably since I was a teenager. And it was no bueno. I did include Screen Rant's 15 best 80s teen movies. And in every one of these, The Breakfast Club is number one. And I cannot stand The Breakfast Club. You can hear our excuse me, hiccups. You can hear our episode on The Breakfast Club too, if you want to hear more why a little more. So,
okay, so the 15 best.
Yeah,
there are a few on here that are like The Lost Boys.
Yeah,
yes.
Lost Boys is good.
Better Off Dead. It's another one of those
good.
wacky ones. But John Cusack has done some movies that I've really, really enjoyed. Can't Buy Me Love. It's 16 Candles. That one still makes me laugh to this day.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
Heather's My Bodyguard, Rumblefish, which I didn't get at the time. And I actually watched it probably about a decade, maybe 15 years ago, because I'd read the books. S.E. Hinton was a huge thing. And I actually liked it better now as an adult than I did as a kid.
I remember seeing it as a kid and not getting it because it seemed too abstract for me. You know, is that when you're when you were when it came out in '83, so I was 10. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'd already read the book, but just when I saw the movie, that was also Tex S.E. Hinton. One of my favorite scenes in a movie is he's made this weird sculpture out of popsicle sticks, and he pours glue and he lights it on fire. And he starts yelling at the teacher, "Grade it quick. It's going fast. You better grade it quick." Right. Pretty in Pink. Permanent Record. Never heard of it.
My lovely wife would like to join us when we do Pretty in Pink.
There we go.
We'll
bring it on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Permanent Record. I don't even remember that. It's got Keanu Reeves. I've
never heard of it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Karate Kid, Risky Business, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Say Anything, In Your Eyes, like the heat. That just, I do that occasionally whenever we hear like a bad musician. I just start singing, "That'll never be me. That'll never be me. Don't you ever think it."
I think Say Anything and Fast Time should be 1 and 2.
Well, Ferris Bueller's Day Off should rank up there pretty high.
Yeah. It's number 2 according to this.
It's got some stupid moments, but man, that movie is hilarious. And of course, just like you said, Breakfast Club's always going to be at the top.
Yeah, it's meh. I think I like Say Anything because it was more about kids like right after high school, but also it was that moment right before grunge broke out. It was in Seattle. It had some groups that were getting ready to come up, and it just had that kind of that feeling that these people were a little bit more real. You know, they weren't like super rich people, and it just felt a little more realistic, and I liked it better. Could relate to it more. And Fast Times, I think, is just the best 80s teen movie. And just because of the huge cast, tackled real issues, was funny, and, you know, had some serious things at the same time. I think it's the best 80s teen movie from that time. So,
yeah. As you were talking, I was flipping through the list of the 50 worst, and I would like to say that I have seen many of these.
Oh yeah, so have I. The 50 worst teen movies of the 80s. Number 1 is Meatballs Part 2.
Seen it.
Doesn't it have like a weird fake E.T. thing in Meatballs Part 2?
Yeah.
It's like a lumpy looking E.T. knockoff in that one. Endless Love. I've seen that. Porky's Revenge.
Dude, at 50, No Retreat, No Surrender. Come on. Come on.
That is so bad. Van Damme is in that movie right at the beginning and right at the end. He's like, and then the guy pretends that thinks that the ghost of Bruce Lee is teaching him how to do karate. It is so bad. There's actually a Riff Tracks version that you can watch, which is kind of funny. Like Father Like Son, that was Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron body switch movie. Ugh. She's Out of Control, which I don't remember. Tony Danza, movie called Jocks. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I don't think it should be that low. Hot Dog the movie, I barely remember it. I just remember there was nudity. Losing It with Tom Cruise and Jackie Earle Haley and Shelley Long. I remember that. I just remember the song about Tijuana. Yeah. Then Johnny Be Good, Zapped. That's an awful one. 82. Heather Thomas was the highlight in that one. A Night in Life with Jimmy Reardon. I remember thinking that was the most boring movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It was awful. I don't even know why I watched it. It was just terrible.
I remember the trailer for that in the theaters because they had that dude with the epic voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would like talk about the hijinks that were going to go on. They got Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon.
There was another movie that I remember watching I think we walked out of it. It was Cuffs. It was a movie with
Christian Slater.
Yes, and like Mila Jovovich or something was in it. It was fucking terrible.
There's hugs and kisses on all your pink parts. Like, really? Nice.
Yeah. Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. My Chauffeur. That was a teen sex comedy. The Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. That should not be that low. Or should not be in that. I think it's a good class. Private Lessons with Sylvia Crystal. 1981. Thrashin'. Up the Academy. I remember that one because there was like a turd in a punch bowl joke in that one. And there was, as a kid, it was very funny to me. Came out in 1980.
What was that? He was like pointing through the window. My dick in the punch. In the punch.
How I Got into College. Once Bitten. BMX Bandits. License to Drive was awful. There was a remake of Splendor in the Grass with Melissa Gilbert. Ugh.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I remember that was awful. For Keeps, that movie was awful. I remember watching this in the theater and just absolutely hating it. It's a movie where Molly Ringwald gets pregnant as a teen.
Pregnant. Yeah.
Oh my God. That was awful. The All-Nighter was also awful, even though it had Susanna Hoffs in it. And yeah, it was bad. The Invisible Kid, Joysticks, Cheerleader Camp. It's got Betsy Russell and Leif Garrett.
How could that miss?
The Wildlife. I remember that one. It was kind of like a sort of pseudo Fast Times at Ridgemont High sequel. A Chris Penn instead of Sean Penn. Hot Pursuit, Ghost Chase. Never seen that. Porky's. Porky's has not aged well.
Not at all. But Ghost Chase had like a creature in it that looked a little bit like E.T. with big, weird white eyebrows.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Phantom of the Mall, Fraternity
Eric's
Vacation.
Revenge.
Yeah. And of course, No Retreat, No Surrender.
Wow. That is a bad one. Oh, it keeps going. Deadly Friend was 51.
I know. I couldn't resist. I flipped in there too.
Private School.
So bad.
Yeah. Beat
Deadly
Street.
Friend. When a Deadly Friend, wasn't she coming at you like the hands like this, like the claws,
Yes.
like she was the robot? Yeah.
She was the one. She threw the basketball and blew up Anna Ramsey's head. That was the only good part of that movie. Hollywood Nights. Ugh, man.
That was then. This is now.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Teen
that one
Witch.
being that bad.
So bad. But
So bad.
anyway, that
Okay. Yeah,
ends,
nobody wants to hear us go through all of this.
that ends high school month. And yeah, it was a pretty rough ending.
Hells to the yes.
Pretty rough ending. But next week, it's the sequel to the remake of Remake Month. We're going to do a remake, watch movie remakes in the month of June, and we've got some interesting ones lined up. And I think we start with the Omen remake from 2006 with Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles taking the place of Lee Remick and who's the other actor? The guy who was Atticus Finch. He was in the original Omen.
Oh, remember?
Yeah, that.
I don't remember. I'm just looking at this, and thank God none of these films land on the day of my birth celebration. So good for that. Although
yeah.
I did enjoy the new Hellraiser. We got the new Hellraiser on there.
Yeah, I threw that one in there because we need to do something relatively new.
Yeah, I liked that one.
I still haven't seen it yet, so I'll have to.
13 Ghosts.
Yeah, we're doing the Night of the Demons remake as well. So remake month.
Should we talk about what's going to be happening this week?
What's going to happen this week?
We're going to be recording somewhere else.
Did we finally settle on a date?
I thought we said the 22nd.
Yeah, I think the 22nd we're going to record with the sisters who've seen it. I haven't had too much correspondence with this past week, but we should hopefully be recording with them.
Should fire that one back out there just to make sure.
Yeah.
It should be fun. And I listen to their podcast occasionally. The problem is that there's so many damn good podcasts out there. But if I see a movie of theirs that I like, that will definitely give it a listen to. But they asked us to talk about a film, and I'm really curious about it because I've heard good things, but I've never actually watched it myself. It's called Conan,
Mm-hmm.
something. I don't know.
Barbarian, yeah.
But I'm gonna look this up and watch it, and it'll be something new. You know, I'm always down to try something I've never watched before.
All right, so get brush up on your remakes. The Omen from 2006, Night of the Demons remake from 2009, Piranha 3D from 2010, Hellraiser 2022, and 13 Ghosts
Yes,
are the slate for remake month. So if you have a chance
Speaking of remakes, fuck you, Jason Momoa, for trying to redo Conan.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was horrible.
I don't think David's going to be with us next week, but we'll see. So
fingers crossed, David.
Yes. All right.
Everybody have a good week.
Yes, have a good week.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Video Store Podcast.